Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Work Wellbeing. I am so glad you're here. This week we're talking about something that comes up a lot. We've all heard of FOMO, haven't we? But have you heard of the opposite, Jomo? Now, this is relatively new to me, but when I discovered it, I was like, oh, hey, this is me. And I don't know whether it's because I'm getting older and I'm not as, I guess, affected by missing out on things, but also there's a lot happening health-wise for me. I have PMDD, and I'm not going to lie, last month was pretty horrific. I had a really particular tough month. Well, it's not a whole month. It's like the week to 2 weeks before my period. PMDD stands for Premenstrual Dysphoric Disorder, which it's essentially a really severe form of PMS. So many of you listening will relate to having PMS or a change in hormones around your period. And what I've noticed is that my PMDD basically dictates what I do socially and what I don't do. And what happened on my last cycle was we had a camping trip and I couldn't physically leave the house. I became a shell of my former self. I was crying constantly and I couldn't socialize. So when I started reading about the whole FOMO and the opposite Jomo, I was like, I need to record a podcast on this because I think that, especially as women, we can pile our plate high. I'm talking to-do lists, sorting everyone else out. If you've got kids, it's back to school at the moment. It's crazy and it's busy. And when I interviewed Lisa Higgins on all about taking power of your menstruation, if you're not in the members club, you need to join because she did such a great masterclass on taking back control, how to be a cyclical badass. You need to check out our podcast chat as well. But it sparked something in me, and especially as my PMDD is becoming, I guess, more prevalent, but it's really affecting my life. And I now, using Lisa's guidance and advice in that podcast episode, I have to plan my weeks. And I have to do that based on what my mood is going to be like. And the more prepared I am, the more I feel like I'm not cancelling things last minute and letting people down like I had to do with that camping trip, which was a family camping trip, but I had to listen to my body. And it's really interesting. I didn't record. I taught my in-person yoga class last night, and the theme of the class was, what do I need? Like a mantra, I kept saying to everyone in the room, what do you need? Say to yourself, what do I need? Whether it's from this yoga class tonight, whether it's from the rest of the week, whether it's what you need from work, what do you need professionally, what do you need? We never, or very rarely, especially as women, really listen deeply to what we need. And this all links in, it's probably a waffly way of saying it, to the whole FOMO, and which we're going to get onto the opposite, which is JOMO. So FOMO, as we know, is the fear of missing out. So it's like, oh, everyone's doing that. I'm not there. Everyone's having fun. I'm not. I'm missing out. I'm the only one. I'm at home. I'm not doing it. I wish I was there. And your brain and your mind will go off making these narratives up. And I think it's really interesting, especially I think this happens more when you're younger as well. And I mean, I don't really go out much anymore. But it's something I really want to instill in the kids. Because FOMO relates to so many things. It's not just social activities, is it? It's like people having better things, more expensive items, especially when you're growing up. For us, it was always trainers. Like, I'm going to show my age, but we used to get catalogs and they always had a price that you could pay weekly. And my brother used to like beg my mum for the latest Nike, with the air bubble, and it was like $2.95 a week. But obviously there was probably interest on it, but it was like always, wanting to be the best and not missing out on things. So for us at school, it was really cool trainers. So it's sort of weaved in from quite a young age. So I'm really keen to teach my kids about that, about being comfortable with what you've got and not needing to change for anyone else or change anything, in your life. and not comparing yourself to others. So if someone is doing something, why are you craving to do that? Do you need to force yourself to say yes, even though deep down, listening intuitively, what do you want? What do you need? You probably don't want to go. So when we're talking about it from a social situation, especially as I've got older, before my PMDD got worse and my period symptoms got worse, I used to kind of say yes to things and go out, sometimes not wanting to do it. Definitely in work situations, when I worked in London in corporate, I'd go to things and think, I just don't want to be here. And if I had my time to come again, I'd say, no, I'm not doing that, because time is our most valuable asset alongside health, and we don't get that time to come again. So, this podcast is all about getting you to think about, what do you really want? And if you do have elements of FOMO, can you maybe flip it on its head and turn it around to Jomo? So, here we go. Zoe, what the hell are you talking about? So, Jomo is the joy of missing out. I'll say it again. Jomo is the joy of missing out. How bloody brilliant is that? The joy of missing out is feeling the true delight of being on your own, of being able to watch the movie you want to take a bath, and do exactly as you like. Hello, yes, please. More joy of missing out for me. I just absolutely loved this, because I'm working on being a people pleaser, saying yes to everything. Yes, I'll do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, no problem. To the detriment of your health, of your other responsibilities. Actually taking the joy in not doing everything. So I encourage you, when you're listening to this podcast, I want you to pay attention to you. And I want you to think about, what is your capacity, whether it's socializing, whether it's saying yes at work to extra tasks or meetings or things that you don't want to do. And obviously, when you're getting paid for a job, you can't just go, no, I'm not going to do that presentation. I know you pay me a salary and I've got my benefits and my holiday pay, but no, I'm not talking about that. Maybe there's extra things at work going on that you can start to listen and maybe say, no, don't need to do that. If it's an optional team get together and you're on your period, or you just exhausted, or you've got too much going on, you've got stuff going on at home, say no. And take it as a joyous moment of missing out, that you'll hear all about it the next day at work or whenever it is. But actually focusing on, you know, the joyous element of you listening deeply to what you want and saying, no, not for me, not this time. And there are going to be times, especially as women in the month, listen back to Lisa's podcast interview, so interesting, that we each month go through essentially a year season, winter, spring, summer, autumn. Gosh, I don't know why I got them that way round. There's definitely four, but we're going through those 4 seasons every single month, which is absolutely, it's insane and also incredible. So there are going to be times when you don't have much energy, and there are going to be times where you've got too much stuff. It's full on and things are going on and you need downtime. And that's when you can really start to embrace the JOMO. And I was reading a book about, it's called Self-Care for the Real World. And it's one of those books that I just dip into in and out. It's really nice. It's one of those like good books to have on your desk. And they've got a section on how to socialize happily. And I thought this was interesting as well, because I hit 40 this year. And your wants and desires do change. I was joking with a friend the other day about like how, when you were younger and you wouldn't think about eating your food before maybe going out and having a skinful of booze. So like thinking about what your happy social is it going to a dinner party with a small group of your best mates? Or is it going to like a bigger group party with like 30 people where you can like mill in and out, take bits that you want, escape conversations that you don't want to be in? Is it going to the cinema? Is it sitting at home on the sofa and watching Netflix and eating loads of chocolate? Yes, please. Really think about, what is your socializing happy place? If you hate big parties with loads of people, then don't go. If you know that that gives you anxiety or social anxiety or just makes you feel like, ooh, then really think about the power of saying no. And similarly, I was chatting to someone else about like the whole karaoke thing. Oh, and I was also listening to a podcast. That was it. I was chatting about karaoke, but I listened to a podcast about singers. I can't remember who it was. It's not a great anecdote, is it? But it was about singers hating karaoke because they do it as their main job, and they're like, "Do not make me do that." It's similar, like for us. If you love karaoke, maybe do more of it. If you hate it, stay away, say no. And I've got to say alongside this, because it would be easy to do it, especially when I'm sort of suffering with the PMDD thing, try not to get into a habit of just staying in all the time. So there's a major difference between taking like time out for yourself, which is really good, and like retreating from the world, which is what I have to do the week before my period. And then saying no to things, but just doing that all the time. So you retreat and get on the sofa when you need to, when your body's asking for that, when you're in that winter part of your cycle and you just need to like downgrade and close the curtains, but you don't want to be doing it all the time. So if you're thinking about this Jomo, you sometimes do have to do things, make yourself get off the sofa, because you don't want to be stopped, you don't want people to stop inviting you, and you don't want to close those friendship groups down. But this podcast episode is about really listening to what you want. What do you like doing? And maybe doing more of it, like encouraging your mates to do other things if it's just got in a rut where you always go for wine and you maybe want to drink less. And then also thinking about if socializing takes a lot out of you, which I mean, it does for me, especially the goddamn hangovers. Make sure you schedule some time to recover. I know that sounds like impossible for a lot of people, but even if you need that sofa day the next day and you don't go out a lot, make sure you give yourself that goddamn time. It's one day, it's half a day, it's a few hours. Try and give yourself that time for you. So my key takeaways from today are: embrace the Jomo, embrace saying no if it feels right. Listen to what you want to do, body, mind, soul. Listen deeply, tap into that intuition. Listen to the podcast episode with Liz Roberta. We know, our body knows, our mind knows. We just need to listen. So whatever you've got going on, if you're similar to me, if you struggle with your periods, start planning. Look at the month ahead. Look at the invites that you've got. If there's things that you want to say no to, say no, but don't say no to everything. Maybe flip it on its head. Maybe try something different. Someone I know who doesn't drink was saying to me that since giving up alcohol, they have done so many weird and wonderful things, and they've got this group of sober mates, and she said it's just bloody brilliant because they're doing all these things that they would have never normally done, because it was always meet at the pub, or let's go to a bar, or we'll go for dinner, and then there's wine involved. So maybe starting to think about what your social happy is and trying something completely different. So that is it for another episode. I have loved having you here. I hope you can take something from this podcast app. If you haven't already, please head over to that subscribe button and give us a review. It helps us reach other women, and we're all about empowering and supporting women. We've got some amazing guests lined up. That's all I'm going to say. So make sure that you hit subscribe, hit follow, leave us a review. And if you're not in the members club, why on earth not head over to community.jobsforwomen.co.uk/join. Pop your name, your email address in there, and your login details will be sent immediately. Check the junk folder if they're not there. We've got so much content coming up, and we're even looking at starting some live yoga. So if you're not in there, please join. And as always, thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting us, and we will see you next week.